60 is the thing that stays on top of mind for me. That's about the number of independent family farmers we're losing a day. That's a crisis.
America's family farmers helped put Donald Trump back in the White House. But is he now selling them out to corporate meat packers and foreign producers? My name is James Lee, and you're watching Beyond the Headlines on Breaking Points. For generations, family farmers were the backbone of rural America, raising livestock, growing food, and building communities that kept the country fed. But today, that world is steadily vanishing. Since the middle of the 20th century, we've seen massive consolidation of the farming sector, with small family farms making way for massive corporate-owned factory farms, with 140,000 farms lost in just the past 5 years alone. During his presidential campaign in 2024, Donald Trump promised to bring prosperity back to rural America. But since returning to the White House, his administration has frozen billions of dollars in federal farm and energy programs, gutted the USDA offices that serve small producers, and reignited trade wars that have already bankrupted thousands of family farms. Meanwhile, in Congress, those same corporations are backing bills that would overturn California's Proposition 12, one of the few laws helping independent farmers compete by ensuring that animals are raised humanely, which raises a pressing question. What is in store for the future of American farming and agriculture? To help us break all of this down, I'm joined today by Joe Maxwell. He is the president of the Farm Action Fund. He's also a fourth-generation Missouri farmer and one of the leading voices fighting to save America's independent agriculture. Joe, welcome to Breaking Points. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be on, James. Thank you.
Absolutely. Really excited to kind of get your take on things and kind of inform our audience on this issue. And I want to first start with the effort to repeal California's Prop 12, and specifically your op-ed that caught my eye. So just to give you a little bit of background for people, Prop 12, which passed in 2018, set higher animal welfare standards, requiring that any pork, eggs, or veal sold in the state to come from animals given enough room to stand up, lie down, and turn around. But right now, corporate lobbyists and big pork associations are now claiming that laws like this are hurting small farmers, that it's too expensive to comply with these regulations, and it's driving producers out of business. In your op-ed, you actually argued the opposite, that Prop 12 is one of the few policies helping independent farmers compete and make a fair living. So can you break that down for us? What's the reality from the farmer's perspective that you want people to know?
Well, the reality is that there's not really a market for commercial hogs. So if you raise them the way the industry, the big packers want you to raise them, put them in cages and crates, then they make deals with the largest farmers in the country. And if you're an independent farmer, you don't have a chance. They actually own the hogs. So you own a building as a farmer, and they put their hogs and their feed, and you sit there and you're really a janitor for the building and a waste manager for the waste. So you're not actually farming your own hogs. So for the farmers that are independent, raising their own hogs, and they don't, if we choose as a farmer like myself not to engage with those big packers, then we don't have a market. Over 60, almost 70% of the pig market in this country is controlled by 4 corporations, and they dictate what goes on. California passed Proposition 12. Those companies throwing a fit because they don't want to have to change their systems. They don't want to have true animal husbandry where you keep eyes on the animal and take care of the animal welfare. They want to create an industrial-based model where you just cage the animal. So they're fighting it. It gave us an opportunity to have a market. So over 200 farmers went to Washington, D.C. a little over a week ago to let Congress know that the National Pork Producers Council speaks for the big packers and not for us independent farmers. And we are excited about the opportunity to stop big ag in its tracks in Washington, D.C.
So when you guys have gone to Washington, have you guys found allies within Congress that are on the side of the independent farmers versus the big conglomerates?
We have. Now, unfortunately, the leadership of the Republican Party, they've never met anybody too big, right? They love big corporations. So they're the ones pushing this. The chair in the Senate, Senator Bozeman out of Arkansas, the chair in the House, Congressman Thompson out of Pennsylvania. They are doing everything they can to pass this bill. Along with the two bills, one in the House, one in the Senate, are sponsored by members from Iowa, which is the largest pig production state in the country. So what we do have other allies. A lot of the Democrats are with us, not all of them. And we do have Republicans. It will take both parties to stop the industrial push to drive small farmers, independent hog farmers out of business, and to let California citizens dictate how they want their food raised and processed.
Right. So I always see something like the food supply as a bipartisan issue, right? There shouldn't be a Republican versus Democrats. Right. It should be an American issue that we can all unite on in terms of having an independent food supply. And speaking of which, you may have already seen this clip of Trump on Air Force One saying that we need to help out Argentina by buying their beef. But I'm going to play that clip real quick for us, and then we'll react on the opposite side of this.
Question is, what do you have to say to U.S. farmers who feel that the deal is benefiting Argentina more than it is them, they are
Argentina's fighting for its life, young lady. You don't know anything about it. They're fighting for their life. Nothing's benefiting Argentina. They're fighting for their life. You understand what that means? They have no money. They have no anything. They're fighting so hard to survive. If I can help them survive in a free world, I happen to like the president of Argentina. I think he's trying to do the best he can. But don't make it sound like they're doing great. They are dying. All right? They're dying.
What do you mean by being? Okay, so Argentina, I'm sure they're struggling over there, but I think American farmers are also struggling. And so I've heard rumblings from a lot of ranchers who are furious for obvious reasons about that policy announcements. What's your reaction there?
Well, the president's got it just all wrong. First, we created tariffs. Farmers are taking it on the chin with higher costs, just like everybody listening to this, viewing this. Then he starts a trade war with China, and soybean farmers are taking it on the chin. China was the largest purchaser of U.S. soybeans, and literally overnight, they stopped buying soybeans, leaving bins full and farmers going bankrupt. And now, because he likes the president of Argentina, or at least that was the basis that he gave, he's going to not only he gave them $40 billion. As a matter of fact, the first $20 billion went out, and the first thing Argentina did was lower a tax and sell soybeans to China. And now he turns around and says, I'm going to buy their beef. So it's really, many of the ranchers, we have folks on our staff and in our network, farmers that raise cattle. And, it's a betrayal. They had expected the prices have been going up. They're finally making some money after about a decade of losses. Our cattle herd is the smallest it's been since the 50s. And they're finally now have a chance to recover and put more heifers in to be breeding stock for cows. And the president says, oh, beef's too high at the grocery store, so I'm going to import more beef. He's just got it wrong. It won't work. There's no guarantee. The big packers, 4 companies, control 80% of all the beef in this country. So you go to the grocery store, it's an illusion that there's that much choice in that case. 4 companies control the beef in this country, and there's nothing the president's doing they'll be the buyers. They'll get cheaper meat, and nothing guarantees the consumer will see a lower price. As a matter of fact, they've been making record profits during this time of high beef prices. They could stand to lower some of that, continue to pay the farmer what they need, the rancher, and provide the consumer with a fair market price in the grocery store. He's just got it wrong.
Right. Well, so what's the risk of having that kind of centralization in the food system? Because I've heard you and a few other people as well talk about a possible impending collapse in America's food system. What do you mean by that? Could we literally be running out of food, or is it more of talking like inflation and these kinds of things, right? Supply chain disruptions and because food's coming from a very small number of large conglomerates. What kind of policies would you pursue to fix some? Or first, what do you mean by that kind of impending collapse? And then, if you were in charge, what kinds of policies would you pursue to fix this?
Well, right now we are bringing from other countries food. And this great powerhouse of agriculture, the United States, is exporting feed crops. What we raise mostly in the United States is feed and fuel crops, feed for livestock and crops that convert to bio fuels or ethanol or biodiesel. And we have to import food to feed us. We've gotten a position that we're over-ended in beef, importing more and more beef and slowly having less domestic production. So even in the meat side, we're beginning to not feed ourselves as a country. What's the collapse? You have another pandemic. There's a major war. Your shelves are going to go empty because you aren't raising food for Americans in America. What has to be done is begin to shift our policies, support the domestic production of cattle, of beef in the United States, regrow the herd, pass, or the president could, under the USMCA, the United States, Mexico, Canada deal that's going to be discussed. They're having a meeting here soon. You can send in comments. You go to farmaction.us and you can provide your comments. But right now in America, that Argentina beef can be brought in to the United States and marked product of the USA simply if it's rewrapped.
Wow.
So we need to pass mandatory country of origin labeling, and we need to shift the government subsidies in the next farm bill so we start focusing on raising food and not just feed and fuel. It's been intentional. Government policies have intentionally driven the food production out of this country and have intentionally then begun to rely on foreign imports. That's a food security, national security issue, and that's what needs to happen.
Absolutely. I think that same situation has been mirrored on the industrial side, right? We don't really manufacture anything in this country, which leaves us vulnerable in times of crises. We saw that during COVID, and who knows when the next thing will happen. Like you said, it could be another pandemic, it could be a war that leaves us vulnerable. And one thing that I think may tie into this issue, and I want to get your take on, is just the dramatic decline over the last 50 years in family farms. So when you look at something like that trend, what's the most alarming thing about that? And I'm curious, what are the top, would you say, what are the top 2 or 3 biggest forces pushing family farmers off of their land?
60 is the thing that stays on top of mind for me. That's about the number of independent family farmers we're losing a day.
Wow.
60. That's a crisis. I mean, do you want Bayer Monsanto raising your food, or do you want an American family farmer? That's what's at stake. So that's what's on top of mind. I want to say one thing, James. No one has to be the president of the United States to take action. If this message and what we're talking about today disturbs one of the viewers, then they can take action, and they should. I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. The president is meeting with some ranchers right now. If we call them out, hold the president accountable, hold the Congress accountable, we can change this food system to feed us healthy, safe foods.
100%. I think that's just one of the big things that ties this issue in with some of the other coverage that I do around, so-called making America healthy again, is that the food supply seems to be causing a lot of the chronic health issues that we're all dealing with. And this is sort of the foundation of that, is having a healthy food system, having farmers that care about the actual quality of the food versus just the profits and efficiency and things like that big corporations care about. So to your point, how can people learn more about this issue and support your organization?
Yeah. Well, one, start asking questions of their elected officials.
Well, they say that's dangerous sometimes to ask questions. They're telling us not to ask any questions on a whole host of issues.
Yeah. Well, I'd keep asking. Two, go to farmaction.us. It's our sister Farm Action Fund sister organization that does the research and policy development. It has a wealth of information. If you want to know about the concentration, go to the Agriculture Concentration Hub, and it'll tell you the horror story that America's farmers and all the eaters are facing because only a handful of companies control our food system, to include the agriculture. Then Farm Action Fund, we take the fight to Washington, D.C. So everybody can join in with Farm Action Fund, and do contact your member of Congress or your U.S. Senator. Tell them you saw this show. Tell them James did a great job. And by golly, you want answers, and you want them to stop, that you support Proposition 12, and that you want a healthy food system. We have the various proposals on those pages.
100%. I think we should all be able to agree as Americans that we want a healthy food system. I think that has a lot of positive implications for the future of America, having healthy kids that grow up, in a robust environment that's healthy, more production, better economy. I think there's a lot of positive benefits that we can see out of that. Really appreciate you, Joe, for coming on the show today. I learned a lot about America's food supply just from you right now in the last 10 or 15 minutes. And hopefully our audience has as well. Appreciate you for coming on the show today.
Thank you, James.
That is it for me this week. If you want more stories that the mainstream media is unwilling to tell, head on over to my YouTube channel, 5149 with James Lee. The link will be in the description below. As always, thank you for your time, and keep on tuning into Breaking Points.